Art Vance hadn't worn a suit in 3 weeks, and honestly, he was enjoying every dusty, unshaven minute of it. Now, Art was a man who owned a ridiculous amount of property, entire blocks of prime real estate across the country, hotels, office towers, shopping centers. He was the kind of guy whose net worth was measured in numbers that made your eyes cross. But today, right now, Art looked like he owned nothing but the dirt under his fingernails. He was wearing a faded denim jacket, a pair of heavy hiking boots that had definitely seen too much mud, and a backpack that looked like it was stuffed with everything he possessed. His beard was scruffy, maybe 3 weeks worth of growth, and his hair was doing its own thing, wild and free, tucked under a worn baseball cap. Art had just finished one of his annual reset trips, a week alone, off-grid, hiking deep in the Appalachian Mountains. He found it necessary to remind himself what real life felt like away from the private jets and the endless meetings. He was feeling refreshed, centered, and a little bit grubby. But before heading back to his massive estate outside Atlanta, he decided to make a little unscheduled stop. A surprise visit, completely unannounced, to one of his crown jewels, the Grand Metropolitan Hotel. He had built this place from the ground up 15 years ago. It was supposed to be the standard, the flagship property of his entire hospitality empire. He hadn't checked in personally in almost 4 years, relying on his trusted COO and the management structure he'd put in place. Today, he wanted to see it with fresh eyes, the eyes of a regular person. Or, in this case, the eyes of someone completely invisible. He pushed open the massive, gleaming brass revolving door and stepped into a world of hushed luxury. The contrast was immediate and jarring. Art, looking every bit the dusty vagrant, suddenly standing right in the middle of a lobby that looked like the inside of a jewelry box. The air conditioning hit him, cool and crisp, carrying the scent of expensive leather, polished wood, and those fancy Lily's hotels always seemed to use. The floor was Italian marble, so highly polished you could practically see your future in it. Overhead, an enormous crystal chandelier sparkled, probably worth more than Art's first 3 businesses combined. People noticed him. Oh, they noticed. A woman in a shimmering cocktail dress, checking her phone near a velvet rope, pulled her designer handbag a little closer to her body. A sharp-looking businessman, talking loudly into his headset about stock options, paused his conversation, glanced Art's way, and then gave a sharp, judgmental shake of his head. The universal sign for security issue. Art just smiled faintly under his beard. This was perfect. This was exactly what he needed to see. The unfiltered, real pulse of the place. Before any manager could prepare a show, he walked slowly toward the enormous reception desk, pretending to look lost or maybe just awestruck. But really, he was observing the staff. Were they attentive? Were they helpful? Were they kind? The 3 young people behind the front desk, all dressed in impeccable slate-gray uniforms, froze like deer in headlights. They didn't offer a greeting. They didn't rush to help. They just stared, their expressions ranging from mild panic to outright distaste, clearly waiting for someone else to deal with the problem Art represented. That's when Brandon Hayes made his entrance. Brandon was a general manager, and he wore his title like a king wears a crown. Everything about Brandon was sharp and expensive. The custom-tailored suit that cost more than Art's entire hiking gear, the perfect knot in his silk tie, the razor-sharp parting in his dark, slick-back hair. He walked with a speed and confidence that suggested he was always 2 steps ahead of any potential problem. Brandon had been running the Grand Metropolitan for the last 4 years, and in his mind, the hotel's consistent 5-star rating was 100% due to his personal philosophy. Zero tolerance for anything that compromises the visual integrity of the brand. He didn't just keep the lobby spotless. He kept it curated. And right now, Art Vance, looking like he'd slept in a dumpster, was a major compromise. Brandon spotted Art instantly. He saw a stain on his beautiful, pristine canvas. Brandon didn't hesitate. He marched across the marble floor, his expensive Italian leather shoes clicking loudly, a sound Art knew was meant to announce authority. "Sir," Brandon said, stopping about 6 feet away from Art. His voice was tight and dripping with force, professional politeness, the kind of politeness that was actually a deep, chilling insult. "Can I help you?" Art turned slowly. He met Brandon's gaze. Art's own eyes, usually warm, were now sharp, intelligent, and slightly amused by the unfolding drama. "Just taking a look around," Art said, his voice a little rough from days of shouting at squirrels instead of people. Brandon's nostrils flared just slightly. He took in the faded jacket, the dirt on the boots, the heavy backpack resting on the floor. "This is a private establishment, sir," Brandon stated, his tone shifting from polite inquiry to cold demand. "Are you a registered guest?" Brandon didn't wait for Art to speak. He already knew the answer. "Because if you are not," Brandon continued, folded his arms across his chest, "I'm afraid I have to ask you to leave immediately. We cannot have loitering in the main reception area. It is disruptive to our clientele." Art leaned casually against one of the massive, decorative pillars, crossing his arms over his chest. He was enjoying this far too much. He wanted to see how far this manager would push the limits of basic human decency. "I might be a guest," Art replied simply. "I just arrived." Brandon let out a small, impatient sigh. "Then I need to see your room key, immediately, or perhaps your reservation details." "Look, let's stop wasting time," Brandon snapped, tapping his watch. "I understand you might be in need of assistance, but this is a luxury hotel. This is not a shelter. There's a Mission 3 blocks over, on Elm Street. I suggest you try there. They have resources for people in your position." The word mission hit Art hard. It wasn't that his feelings were hurt. Art had the skin of a rhino when it came to business. But it revealed the true, rotten nature of Brandon's character. He didn't see a potential customer. He saw a social class to be dismissed. "I just need a minute," Art insisted, making no move to leave. He wanted to see if any other staff member, any concierge, any bellhop would intervene with a shred of kindness. No one did. They all looked away, agreeing silently with the manager's assessment. Brandon absolutely snapped. He hated being argued with, especially by someone he considered utterly beneath him. "That's enough," Brandon growled, pulling his phone from his suit pocket. He spoke into the device with clipped, angry precision. "Security, I need 2 officers in the main lobby now. We have an unauthorized person refusing to vacate the premises. Code Alpha 7. Art stood up straight, his full height returning. He looked directly at Brandon, giving him a serious, cold look, the kind of look that usually made CEOs sweat to their tailored suits and CFOs nervously reread their balance sheets. But Brandon was too blinded by his own arrogance and focus on brand integrity to notice the sheer danger radiating off the supposed vagrant. "You really think this is the right way to handle things?" Art asked quietly, his voice dangerously low. Brandon laughed, a short, dismissive puff of air. "The right way is maintaining the integrity and exclusivity of this establishment, which clearly you are compromising. Now move, or you will be physically removed." 2 massive security guards, Mark and Thomas, arrived almost instantly. They were built like refrigerators, wearing dark uniforms, and they looked uncomfortable but rigidly obedient to the manager's command. "Escort this man out," Brandon ordered, pointing dramatically toward the revolving doors. "Ensure he understands he is not to return. If he lingers, call the police." Art sighed heavily. The test was over. The flagship hotel was failing miserably. He didn't resist. He simply allowed Mark and Thomas to place their large, gloved hands lightly on his arms. As they walked him toward the exit, Art glanced back at Brandon. The general manager was already straightening his tie, smoothing the lapels of his jacket, looking supremely satisfied, having already moved on to checking his phone for more important matters. "You have a nice day, sir," Art called out, his voice carrying a strange, almost threatening cheerfulness. Brandon didn't even look up. He just waved his hand dismissively. "Just leave." Art was deposited onto the busy city sidewalk. The sounds of traffic, car horns, and sirens immediately replaced the hushed luxury of the lobby. He watched the massive revolving door spin once. A clear, beautiful glass barrier separated him from the world he owned. He took a deep breath of the hot, humid city air. He pulled his phone from his backpack pocket. Not the beat-up flip phone Brandon probably expected, but a sleek, custom-made satellite phone. He bypassed the face recognition and opened a secure contacts list. He called his chief operating officer, a woman named Clara Jensen. Clara was currently enjoying a mandatory vacation on a very remote, very expensive beach in the Caribbean. Clara answered on the first ring, sounding annoyed at the interruption. "Art, if this isn't a 5-alarm emergency, I swear I'm going to send you a postcard of me drinking a fruity cocktail." "It's an emergency, Clara," Art interrupted, his voice now crisp, low, and absolutely professional. The tone of a man who moved millions with a single word. "I just had a little visit to the Grand Metropolitan. I was kicked out of my own lobby." There was a long silence on the line, followed by the distinct sound of a glass dropping onto sand. "Kicked out?" Clara stammered, her vacation voice immediately replaced by panic. "By whom? Art, did you tell them who you were?" "The general manager, Brandon Hayes, and 2 of his security guards, Mark and Thomas. Without even asking my name or offering a glass of water. I was judged purely on the appearance of being poor. Clara, that's a failure of decency, and it's a catastrophic failure of policy. We preach hospitality, not elitism. Our mission statement is about treating every single person who walks through those doors with respect, regardless of their attire." Art walked down the street, found a small, secluded planter box under a shade tree, and sat down, dropping his heavy backpack beside him. He looked back at the Grand Metropolitan, the giant gold lettering mocking him slightly in the afternoon sun. "I want Brandon Hayes terminated, effective immediately. Today, no severance pay. I want the security personnel involved put on immediate, unpaid administrative leave, pending a full review of their conduct and the security policies they followed." Clara, now fully awake and sounding terrified, stammered, "Art, wait, no severance? That's going to be a legal issue. We might have to pay him out. We own the best legal team in the state. Clara, find a breach of contract. I guarantee you, a man that arrogant is cutting corners somewhere. I want him gone before the end of the business day. And Clara, I want you to charter a flight and fly back tonight. You're handling the cleanup personally." "Understood, Art. It will be done. But why didn't you just tell them who you were? Why let them humiliate you?" Art chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. He looked at the dirt on his own boots. "Because then it wouldn't be a test, would it, Clara? It would just be a rich man throwing his weight around. I wanted to see how they treated someone who couldn't fight back, someone who had no power. And now I know exactly how they operate." He hung up the phone. The wheels were already turning. He reached into his backpack and pulled out a small, clean shaving kit and a neatly folded, pressed business shirt. He found a nice coffee shop a block away, one that looked like it wouldn't judge his appearance too harshly, and walked in. He ordered a triple espresso, black, and sat down at a small table near the window. He needed a plan, a grand finale. He wanted Brandon to face the full, immediate force of the mistake he had made. Not just a termination notice delivered via email, but the immediate, soul-crushing realization that the bum he kicked out held his entire future in his dirty, mountain-worn hands. Art took a sip of his coffee. It was going to be a long afternoon, but a very satisfying one. He started sending encrypted emails, dictating memos, and scheduling emergency calls. He was setting wheels in motion that would turn the Grand Metropolitan Hotel upside down by sundown. He had been humiliated, sure, but Art Vance was not a man who forgot an insult. He was a man who planned revenge with the precision of a Swiss watch. And the clock was ticking for Brandon Hayes. Art Vance finished his espresso, the strong, bitter taste settling the last of the Appalachian dust in his system. He felt focused, professional, and entirely ready to execute the next phase. He headed into the coffee shop's restroom, which, thankfully, was clean. Using the small kit he'd packed in his backpack, he shaved off the 3 weeks of scruff, revealing the sharp jawline of a man used command. He ditched the worn baseball cap, slicked his dark hair back with a bit of water, and pulled on the crisp, dark blue button-down shirt. He still wore the heavy hiking boots and jeans, but now he looked less like a vagrant and more like a tech mogul on a casual Friday who hadn't quite committed to the casual part. The dirt was gone, but the intensity in his eyes remained. He stepped outside, pulled the satellite phone back out, and checked a secure message. Asterisk Clara Jensen, ETA 17:30 Eastern. Charter landed. On my way. Asterisk it was 5:15 p.m. Perfect timing. The Grand Metropolitan lobby would be buzzing with the pre-dinner crowd. The ideal audience for the performance he had planned. Art slung his backpack over one shoulder, walked briskly back toward the hotel, and instead of taking front door, he headed around the corner to the employee entrance near the loading dock. A small, nondescript keypad was mounted on the wall. He reached into the hidden pocket of his jacket and pulled out a sleek, black metallic card. Not a key card, but an architectural access badge, something only the original builder and owner would possess. He swiped it. The door clicked. Art walked down the sterile, white hallway used by staff, passing laundry carts and cleaning supplies. He was moving through the guts of the operation, heading directly toward the main lobby entrance reserved for high-level management. Meanwhile, in the Grand Metropolitan lobby, Brandon Hayes was having a fantastic afternoon. He had successfully removed a blight on his perfect visual landscape, and the lobby was shimmering. He was coordinating the setup for a major charity gala plan for the following night, barking orders at the catering manager, feeling utterly indispensable. His work phone buzzed. It was a nervous call from the director of HR, Ms. Evelyn Reed. "Brandon, I just got the strangest, most urgent email from Clara Jensen's office. It's a formal termination notice for you, effective immediately. They cited gross misconduct and violation of ethical standards. What is going on?" Evelyn's voice was high-pitched with stress. Brandon stopped cold. His face, usually so composed, went slack with shock. "That's absurd, Evelyn," Brandon scoffed, forcing a laugh that didn't sound right. "Clara is on vacation in the Caribbean. This must be a clerical error. A bad joke. Did you check the sender address? It's probably a phishing scam." "No, Brandon. It came through the secure executive channel. And the CFO just signed off on freezing your corporate accounts. They are serious. They said they are sending security to collect your keys right now." Brandon felt a sickening lurch in his stomach. Asterisk termination? Gross misconduct? Asterisk he hadn't done anything. He was the best manager the hotel had ever seen. He was just doing his job, maintaining the brand. "Evelyn, this is insane. I need to talk to Clara immediately. Get her on the phone." "We can't," Evelyn whispered. "She's already on a flight back." The email stated she was returning specifically to handle this transition. Brandon looked around the lobby, the beautiful, expensive lobby that was his kingdom. The idea of losing it, of being accused of misconduct, made his blood boil. Someone was sabotaging him. But who? Just as he was about to rage into his phone, demanding that Evelyn stop the process, the double doors leading from the executive offices swung open. And there they were. First, Clara Jensen. She looked furious and exhausted, dressed in a sharp, slate-gray suit that looked like it had been pulled from a garment bag moments before. She walked with the determined gait of a woman who had crossed an ocean just to fire someone. And right beside her, walking with calm, almost predatory confidence, was the man Brandon had kicked out just hours ago. Brandon blinked. The man was cleaner now, shaven, in a nice shirt, but it was undeniably the same person. The boots, the eyes. Clara, ignoring the flurry of activity in the lobby, walked directly toward Brandon. The air suddenly felt charged. Many of the staff recognized Clara, the COO, and they immediately fell silent, sensing the drama. Brandon, still clinging desperately to his authority, tried to regain control. "Clara, thank God you're here." Brandon rushed forward, putting on his most charming professional smile. "There's been a catastrophic error in HR. They're trying to terminate me. And look," he lowered his voice, gesturing dismissively toward Art, "that vagrant I removed earlier is back. He must be causing trouble again. I'll have security handle him immediately." Clara stopped 6 feet away from Brandon, just like Brandon had stopped 6 feet away from Art earlier that day. Her expression was ice. "Don't touch him, Brandon," Clara said, her voice low and dangerous. Brandon faltered. "Clara, with all respect, this is highly unprofessional. Allowing transients to loiter compromises the entire brand image we've built here." Clara laughed, a short, sharp, humorless sound that echoed slightly off the marble floor. "The brand image," Clara repeated, shaking her head. "Brandon, you have exactly 30 seconds to walk away quietly, or I will have the police escort you out for trespassing and destruction of company property." Brandon's face went white. "Trespassing? Clara, I am the company here. I run this place. And who is this man? Why are you protecting a vagrant over your general manager?" Clara stepped aside, gesturing toward Art Vance. Art stepped forward, his eyes fixed on Brandon. There was no amusement in his gaze now, only the cold, hard certainty of judgment. "You want to know who I am, Brandon?" Art's voice was calm, clear, and carried perfectly over the sudden silence of the lobby. "You asked me this morning if I was a registered guest. You demanded my room key." Brandon stared at him, confused and angry. "Yes, and I suggest you show it now or leave." Art reached into his jacket pocket again. He didn't pull out a room key. He pulled out a large, heavy, antique brass key, the kind used to open a massive safe or a ceremonial door. It was intricately engraved with the logo of the Grand Metropolitan Hotel. He held it up, letting the light from the massive crystal chandelier catch the gleam of the metal. "This is the key to the executive penthouse, Brandon," Art said softly. "The one that's never rented. The one that was built specifically for the owner." Brandon frowned, shaking his head rapidly. "I don't understand. What are you playing at? You stole that?" Art didn't answer that question. Instead, he reached into his breast pocket and produced a folded piece of paper. It wasn't a reservation confirmation. It was a professionally printed, embossed document, sealed with a corporate stamp. He held it out so Brandon could read the top line, though Art didn't need to. He knew every word by heart. "This is the deed, Brandon," Art continued, his voice dropping slightly, becoming almost intimate, like a disappointed father. "The official title to the entire parcel of land, the structure, the furnishings, and the intellectual property known as the Grand Metropolitan Hotel." He paused, letting the weight of the moment settle on the general manager. "My name is Art Vance. I built this hotel 15 years ago. I signed your paycheck. I own everything you see here, right down to the marble tile you're standing on." The revelation hit Brandon Hayes like a physical blow. The smug assurance drained from his face entirely. His jaw dropped. The color fled his cheeks, replaced by a sickly, greenish hue. He stared at Art, then at the key, then back at Art's now clean face, the true power radiating off the man he had called a vagrant and told to go to mission 3 blocks over. The silence in the lobby was absolute. Guests who had been checking in froze. Waiters stopped pouring water. The front desk staff, the same ones who had stared Art down earlier, looked like they were about to faint. Brandon's mind was racing, trying to find a loophole, a denial, anything. No, you can't be. Mr. Vance, you're always in Atlanta. You're never here. You look like... Brandon stammered, unable to finish the sentence. I looked like a test, Brandon. Art finished for him, his voice devoid of emotion. A test you failed spectacularly. He took a slow step closer. Our mission statement, the one you read every Monday morning, clearly states, hospitality is the unwavering commitment to treating every single human being who crosses our threshold with the highest degree of respect and dignity, regardless of perceived status. You saw a man in dirty clothes, and you immediately chose contempt. You chose humiliation. You chose to prioritize polished marble over basic human decency. Art nodded toward Clara. Clara, please confirm his employment status. Clara, looking thoroughly satisfied, stepped forward. Brandon Hayes, effective immediately, you are terminated for gross misconduct and violation of company ethical policy. Your corporate privileges are revoked. You are required to vacate the premises immediately. Security will be here shortly to escort you out. Brandon looked desperately at the front desk staff, the catering manager, the bellhops, the people he had spent 4 years ordering around. They all looked away, unwilling to meet his gaze. He tried one last, pathetic appeal to Art. Mr. Vance, please. It was a mistake. I was just trying to protect the assets. I didn't know it was you. If I had known who you were... Art cut him off with a sharp, cold gesture. And that, Brandon, is exactly the problem, Art said, his voice hardening. If you only treat people with respect when you know they have power, you are not hospitable. You are opportunistic. You are a fraud. And the Grand Metropolitan does not employ frauds. He looked past Brandon, toward the 2 security guards, Mark and Thomas, who were now standing near the entrance, looking utterly mortified. Mark, Thomas. Art called out, "Step forward." The 2 large men shuffled forward, their heads bowed low. They knew they were next. You followed orders, Art acknowledged, but you also participated in the removal of a man without verifying his identity, without offering assistance, and without questioning an order that clearly lacked compassion. Your actions are currently under review. You are both on administrative leave, without pay, starting now. Claire will arrange for mandatory retraining focused entirely on de-escalation and ethical conduct. If you pass, you may return. If not, you are permanently terminated. He gave them a serious look. Your job is to protect people, not just property. Remember that. Mark and Thomas simply nodded, accepting the judgment, relieved it wasn't an immediate firing. Art turned back to Brandon, who was standing stiffly, looking utterly defeated, his tailored suit suddenly seeming cheap and ill-fitting. I need your badge, Brandon, Art commanded. Brandon slowly, mechanically, pulled the small, laminated general manager badge from his lapel. His hand trembled as he extended it to Art. Art didn't take it. He looked at the badge, then back at the revolving door. You know what? Keep it, Art said, a trace of cruel satisfaction in his voice. Something to remember today by. Now get out of my hotel. Brandon Hayes didn't argue. He didn't even try to say goodbye to anyone. He simply turned, walked slowly across the polished Italian marble floor, the same floor he had strutted across hours earlier, and pushed his way through the gleaming brass revolving door. He stepped out onto the busy city sidewalk, the sounds of traffic and sirens immediately enveloping him. He was a man without a job, without a future, and carrying the crippling weight of his own disastrous arrogance. Art Vance watched the revolving door spin, depositing his now former general manager onto the street. He watched until Brandon disappeared into the crowd. Art took a deep breath of the cool, crisp, expensive hotel air. He looked at Clara, who managed a small, tired smile. "Welcome back, Art," she said. "That was thorough." "A lesson learned, Clara," Art replied, running a hand over his freshly shaved jaw. "A hotel is only as good as the heart of the person running it. And this heart was rotten." Art turned to the young, terrified staff behind the front desk. They snapped to attention. "Listen up," Art said, his voice now warm but firm. "My name is Art Vance. I am your owner. You saw what happened here today. I want every single one of you to know this. If you ever treat a human being who walks through those doors with anything less than absolute respect, regardless of their appearance, you will be gone. We sell hospitality. We sell comfort. We sell kindness." He paused and smiled, a genuine, warm Art Vance smile that reached his eyes. "Now," he said, clapping his hands together, "I'm hungry, and I think I'd like to see if this kitchen can make me a decent steak. I'm checking in, and I want the best room in the house." The new acting manager, a young woman named Sarah who had been standing wide-eyed, immediately rushed forward. "Absolutely, Mr. Vance. Right away." Art handed the antique brass key to Clara. "Start reviewing all management personnel. Clara, we need a fundamental culture shift here. And 4. Tonight, I just want a hot shower and a good night's sleep." As Art Vance, the rightful owner, finally walked toward the elevators, no longer invisible, no longer judged, but treated with the deference due to the powerful, he couldn't help but feel a profound sense of satisfaction. The Grand Metropolitan was back in the hands of someone who remembered what it was like to be a regular guy. And sometimes, folks, that's exactly what it takes to clean house. A little bit of dirt, a clean shirt, and a whole lot of unexpected ownership. That right there is how the Grand Metropolitan got a brand new start.